So what I want to do is see if I can turn this simple mold into a great little shaker mold using resin. And I'm also going to try and add a little bit of sparkle and some depth to this. And I'm going to have to work differently to the way that I've done other shaker molds in the past. So this is a bit of an experiment, but I am sure it's going to come out really, really well. I also want to try a new method out about how to finish off the liquid in the sphere so that I don't get any trapped air bubbles. So first thing I want to do is get this set up so I can then create my space in here. And I don't want it laying flat like that because it's not big enough. It's not in the right position. I actually want it to be up like that. I've got some very fine sand here and a plastic bag over the top. And the reason I put the plastic bag over the top is so that it can hold the barrier there for the resin, and that stops it getting in everywhere because I am very messy. I also need a sphere, which is either this one or this one. They both fit, but I'm not sure which one I'm going to be using at the moment. Not until I get my first pour put in. And then once I've done that, I can show you the new technique of filling this up that I hope is going to prevent the trapped air bubbles. So first thing I need to do is mix up my resin. Now, I only need a little bit to start with, and today I'm going to be using the Pure Glossy. This is really becoming my go-to resin for most things now that are small like this or medium, because it does give such an amazing gloss finish. Really beautiful gloss finish, and it's so easy to use, and it doesn't tend to be full of bubbles. So let's get our PPE on, which is always important. I've got several videos that are listed in the description of all my videos if you want to learn more about PPE. So I've got these on, and now I'm going to put my mask on. Now, I only probably need about 10 mil or less of resin to this to start with. But let me give you a tip. Never try and mix up 5 or 10 mil of epoxy resin, because you're not going to get it stirred in enough, you're not going to get it mixed enough, and you're not going to get the accuracy of it. Always, whatever minimum amount you need, always mix up a minimum amount of 20 mils. That way you're far less likely to have problems with it mixing, curing, and having incorrect proportions. Just have something else ready that you're going to pour your remainder into. I always put little black lines on my jug so that I can see where I've poured up to. The other thing is, when you're mixing such small amounts like this, you don't actually need to mix it for the full 4 minutes. So for this amount, I will just set my timer for 2 minutes, and I will mix this around slowly, going around in circles one way, then another, and then in a figure of 8 throughout the middle, making sure I scrape the sides and the bottom and the stick. That way you're going to get a really good mix with no dead spots in it that aren't going to cure or cause you problems. So my alarm's going off now, telling me I've mixed that for 2 minutes. I can just have a look at it, and yes, that is absolutely fully mixed. I know it is. So what I'm going to do is just pop that to one side for 5 minutes and let it release its bubbles. I might pop it in my degasser, actually. That'll probably be just as quick. Now my resin's degassed. All I need to do is pour a little bit into here, and I do mean a little bit. All I want it to be is a base for when I pop the little sphere in to make the shaker. Now I've got a little bit in. I've probably only got about that much in the mold, and I've got that much left over, but it's not a problem. All I'm going to do is pour that in a mold, and I'll use these bits up in something else. Never waste. I'm going to quickly just pop in there with a lighter, let that cure up, pop that in my curing box, and then I can show you what the next stage is. The resin is cured in that now, and I've decided I'm going to use the smaller of the 2 spheres, so I've got more going around the head. Now, when you get these spheres, they're brilliant. They make some great circles, but they do have this ridge on the bottom here, and I don't want that, so all I do is I turn it inside out. Simple as that. And then you've got, it might not be fully circular now, but you haven't got that ridge. And the next thing to do is make sure it's clean, and then add a bit of weight to it as well, because if not, it will float up. Now, I'm going to add some crushed glass to this to weight it down, because I can get that out really easily at a later stage. And you need this because this will add the weight that to stop it floating right up. Or you need something, you can use sand or something similar if you want. And what's really important is at this stage, make sure that you clean off your sides really well, because if not, you will end up with a translucent or an opaque globe at the end. And then what I'm going to do is pop this in here like this, so it sits on that piece of resin that we've already cast there, like that. And that will move around slightly in there, and we have to stop that when we pour the resin, but we can do that in a second. Well, I'm ready to put that in now. What I'm going to do is I've got my resin mixed up. I'm going to pour a little bit in there to start with. That is really, really important. That is something that you have to do. Now I'm going to pop this in, this ball, until it's balanced in there. When I mean balanced, I mean that the round top is coming to the top. I need to make sure it's as level as can be as well, because if not, it's going to skim to one side. And now I can fill up the rest of this to the depth that I want it to be. Now that's going to move about a bit in there because it's the movement of the actual resin that's going to cause it to move, but we can drag it back into its rightful place. And now what I'm going to do is leave that like that until it's fully cured up, and then I'll show you what I'm going to do next. This is all nice and cured now, so we can take that out of that box and we won't need that again. So we can put the lid on it to avoid making any mess with that sand, because I do make a mess with it. What I will do now is take a little brush, soft brush, and just go in here and brush off any sand that has got in there, because even though I'm really careful, I always seem to manage to get some in there. Now what I need to do is get the glass out of that globe, and that will come out fairly easily. And that was weighty enough to be able to do that. So there's my glass out. Let's put that away before I have that all over everywhere, because you know I will. Now all we need to do is remove that, and that will remove fairly easy through that hole. Now we have got a nice internal dome that's got resin all the way around it, and we can think about filling it up. So what I'm going to fill it up with today is something slightly different. I've got a little teeny weeny shell there. I've got a little teeny weeny plastic octopus. So an octopus inside of an octopus. So they're going to be my large items. And then I'm also going to use some of these little crystal stones as well that I've got. These are just little glass shards that are used for nails. It's nail art. Now, I don't want to overfill this. I want to be able to see it moving around. I don't want it to be just one thick cloud of items, which is sometimes can happen with glitter. I've got all my pieces now that I want to put in there. So what I'm going to do is pour them in. I think that should be enough. No, I'm going to put a few more bits in there. But before I put the shell in, I'm going to show you something to stop that trapping bubbles and just floating everywhere. So for something like this that's got some quite heavy bits in there, I want something quite viscous but clear. So what I'm using is baby oil. I much prefer my shakers to have baby oil in them. You can use a mixture of water and glycerin as well, that will work, but I really do prefer baby oil. Not only that, it smells nice. Not that you're going to smell it through the resin, but... And I put it into a needle nose bottle like this. And then I fill it slowly, because that way, using a needle... Oh, look, the shell went in. Oh, dear, so messy and clumsy. I'll take that out, and I'll show you in a second why I want to do that separately. The last thing you want to do is get any of this around the resin on the top where you're going to seal it, because if you do, it'll act like a release, and it's not going to seal. So with the shell... That's got a lot of air in it, wrapped around inside it. So what I want to do, if I can get hold of it, is push my needle nose bottle in there and squeeze some of this baby oil in there until it stops pushing out air. Now, you do waste a bit of baby oil that way, but at least that you've not got any or many trapped air bubbles in it, and it's not going to perpetually float or release air bubbles as you go in. And then put it straight in there. And now we need to cut a circle of acetate that's larger than the hole that we've got there. Doesn't need to be completely neat circle, because this acetate's going to disappear anyway once you get it in the resin. So let's move that out the way without making too much of a mess. I'm going to cut around this shape here, and this is just thin acetate from an overhead projector. So that should be big enough, I think. We will check it. So quickly cut that out. I have got a large circular stamp somewhere, but I have no idea where it is. Right, there we go. That's that done. Now, this is a really important thing. Get some 99% alcohol and make sure that you clean that cut circle up thoroughly. So there's no oil, grease, or marks on it at all. And that includes grease from your fingerprints. And then it's always important to check that this is going to fit in there as well. So now it's time to attach our little bit of acetate to the cover to cover that right up. I'm using the high viscosity UV resin for this. I'm just putting a little blob there like that. And now what I'm going to do is take a little stick that's got a blunt end to it, because I don't want this in the item, and I'm going to go around that lip all the way around as close as I can get it to the edge. And that is several centimeters at the moment from the top, the liquid that I've put in. So I definitely hope my next plan is going to work, because if not, we're going to have a massive bubble. Okay, so we're there now with that. Now I'm going to pop that on the top, making sure the whole thing is completely covered. Give that a push down, and now cure that up completely for 3 minutes. So that should be sealed in there now, but there is a big bubble in there. And so what I'm going to use is a hypodermic syringe. Now you can get these, oddly enough, from either your chemist or from online. And what I'm going to do is fill that with the baby oil. Clean the needle so there's none on the outside of that needle. Get myself a bit of UV resin ready. Tip that up so it's level. And then gently push that in there. Fill that right up until there's no bubble or just a tiniest little bubble there. And there is going to still be 1 or 2 little bubbles in this, I'm sure. But that's filled that right up. And now I've got oil come out of the top. I'm going to clean that up first before I do anything else, because I don't want any of that in there. Again, using a little bit of alcohol and a Q-tip. Oh, well, at least it's not a massive bubble like there is normally. So now we have still got a little bubble in there, but it's nowhere near as big as it would have been. And now what I'm going to do is fill that hole with some UV resin. Now that hole's a small hole, so it's not going to cause any problems with the UV resin. And quickly cure that up. So that definitely worked. It definitely reduced that, because I think without doing that, my bubble in there would have probably been about 10 times that big. So I'll keep that somewhere safe, and I will use that now just for that process. Now that's all sealed in there, lovely. All I'm going to do is make sure that's all clean of any excess oil around the edge by taking a wad of tissue, well, kitchen roll, and ensuring that I give all that in there a really good clean, because I don't want it to be used as a barrier or a mold release in any way, and then the two parts to fall apart when I put them together. And it's squeaky clean now. And now we can start decorating the actual octopus and then finish it off. So this is going to be a fairly simple but really effective finish. For the eyes, I'm doing black. And then for the body, I'm using my chameleon flakes. And these are my chameleon flakes that I mix together. And it's all the colours out of the chameleon flakes. When I get a little bit left in the bottom of a jar and I think, oh, there's not enough there to do a project, I chuck it all into one of these little plastic pots. And then it becomes a random colour. But it gives a really great effect. I use this a lot. And I'm using a brush for these. And I'll go through and do it all like that. I want to say a massive thank you to everyone that got me a coffee last month. Your names are coming up now. It really does help me to keep this channel going and buy things like these molds and all these different things that I test and experiment with. So thank you. If you'd like to buy me a coffee, get your name on my coffee board, then the link is in the description below. Please hit the hype button as well on this video. That's a fairly new thing, but it really does get the algorithm to pick up the videos, and then more people get to see my videos. So thank you. So hit that hype button as well. And now I'm ready to fill that up with resin. I'm going to be using again the Pure Glossy by Teexpert. Love this resin. And again, mix it up as a 1-to-1, but I am going to colour this resin as well, because that will give much more depth to the chameleon flakes that I've put in. Well, I've got my resin mixed up now, so all I'm going to add is some of this blue Teexpert pigment paste and darken this down a little bit Now, this is a brilliant pigment paste. It gives such vibrant colours. I mean, look at that. And I've only put a little bit in there at the moment, so it's not going opaque yet. But it will. But I like to pop a little bit in first, give that a mix around, and then test my colour. And then I'll put the remainder in that I need to put in. That way as well, you're less likely to get lots of streaks where if you've not mixed it correctly. Oh, look at that. That's lovely. Yeah, I'm really pleased with that. It's not fully opaque. I could add more if I wanted to, but I actually want it to be how it is now. And now all I'm going to do is fill up this mould using a little stick to encourage this to get all the way around the swirly bits. Make sure I've got them all. I have. Top it up a little bit more. And then I'll leave that for 5 minutes and come back and burst any bubbles that are on the top. So I'm going to quickly now burn off my bubbles, and then we can leave this to cure up either overnight or pop it in our curing box. Can't wait to see what this looks like. I'm so excited about it. Well, I just did something silly. I moved the octopus. I'd already taken my gloves off. I moved it so I could then start cleaning up and doing something. And then I've got resin on my hands. Now, as you know, I'm very allergic to resin, and you don't want to be getting it on your hands. So I'm going to quickly show you. Get rid of it by using a baby wipe, and then what I use is actually by Teexpert. I've had this a long time. I always have plenty of it in it in case I get it on my arm or anywhere. Squeeze some of this out, and then I'm going to rub this through my hands. And what you'll find is the resin will be picked up in this, and it will get like little... Can you see how these little bits are here? Well, that is getting and attaching to that and getting rid of that resin. I wash my hands and my arms using this stuff every day, even when I've taken my gloves off, just in case I've leaned in any and I haven't noticed. And I just can't be putting up with the dermatitis and the bad reaction I get. It also cleans it well off your mat, but I don't use it for my mats and my moulds because I'd rather use that cheaper stuff to get that clean. So now I am confident that that is all gone. Yeah, it is. Now, I've been using this for quite a while, several months, to be honest, because I've been testing it for them. The first formula I didn't actually like as much, and then they changed the formula. I'm not even sure if it's been released for sale yet. I hope it has, because I need some more soon. But if it has, I'll link it in the description below. But what I'm trying to tell you is, if you get resin on your hands or on your skin anywhere, then ensure that you get rid of it really, really quickly, because if not, you will start to get really sensitive to it. And then, as a result, you'll end up getting really bad contact dermatitis. Well, this is all nice and cured now, so I can take this out. I'm always really excited to see what a shaker finishes off like. I do love this mould, though, so I'm hoping that's not going to be disappointing either. And my new way of filling the shaker bit, hopefully that's worked out. If not, it's back to the drawing board. So there's only one little bubble in there, and that's there. So that has reduced the amount of bubbles that are in there. Oh, and I do like it. It's shaking really well. And I'm glad I didn't put any glitter in it. And I got some heavier things in it as well. Really do get it going and floating around. Like, I think that's really quite cute. And the black eyes have come out great. Oh, look, a little bit of overpour there. And get that off with my grinder. Other than that, I think that's come out really, really well. Yeah, I'm pleased with that. That little bubble there, I might be able to work out how to get rid of that as well. If anyone's got any ideas, let me know in the comments below. I'd love to know. The shaky bits work really well. Oh, I'm very happy with that. It's quite a cute little octopus. And he looks quite good, look. Be sure to check out the video I've got coming up next. That's where I make a really big shaker about this sort of size. I think you'll love that one. I loved it. Boom that like button, hit the subscribe button, but most of all, enjoy your resin. Take care. Bye.